Okay, so today's jargon term, apparently this is the first time we've done this, socio-dramatic play. All this week we've been talking about play. So what's socio-dramatic play? Here we go. Play, this is our actual definition, play which involves the acting out of scripts and scenes inspired by real life books, cartoons, and other media. Individuals take or assume roles using themselves and or characters like dolls, figures, and puppets as they interact together on common themes. All right, it's a little dry, but that's what actual definitions are. Let's move on to our working definition, which is make-believe or pretend play. So let me see if I can put this all together for you. On Tuesday, our jargon was functional pretend play, right? That was when we take something, looks like a cell phone, but maybe it's a smaller version and it's a play. It doesn't work, it doesn't have the same functionality, but it makes noises like the real thing, right? And we get to play and pretend with it. That begins to build the skills to get to symbolic play, which is when you pick up something that is not a cell phone, but we endow this piece of paper with characteristics of a cell phone, and now we begin to pretend we're doing functional pretend play, right? Then eventually we get to imaginative play. So now there's no phone, there's no pad of paper, and I'm pretending I have a phone. This is when we get to true creativity and imagination. But in amongst all of those different types of play, we want to add in and massage in, it's like mortar between all of these types of play. Picture a brick wall. You're putting in all the different things to end up with something. Bricks, get it? Okay, so then we have the socio-dramatic play. That's the mortar. This is when we're encouraging our individuals, and I don't want to say just children, but we certainly want to start with small children, encouraging them to take on the personal characteristics of someone else. Now, we can do this in lots of different ways. We can do costumes. If you ever go to a really good preschool or a good kindergarten, they've got a box of old Halloween costumes, and the kids put on the fireman costume, and they're the fireman, and they talk like a fireman. And then they put on the police uniform, and then they put on the princess uniform or the king. Now, you can do that with costumes, right? Or you could do it with puppets. Or you can do it with a doll, and the doll says something, and you're, you're kind of playing the character like it's a puppet, but it's a doll. Barbies and G.I. Joes and all those, and all the little characters, all the minifigures, all those different things. You can take on the characteristics of those. Now, why is this so important? Well, first of all, it's important because there's an element of perspective taking. We talk about this all the time, that it's one of the things that we know is missing in individuals who have an autism spectrum disorder, is the ability to realize I'm thinking something and you're over here thinking something different, right? That what I'm seeing from my point of view is different from what you're seeing from your point of view. Well, when you have to take on a character, you begin to think about, well, what does a fireman do? Well, a fireman, stands like this and he says this, which helps us to be in the mindset of a fireman. It's very sneaky, right? But it's very effective. This helps our kids' brains be more pliant. And it helps them with flexibility. It helps them with empathy. It helps them to form better friendships. It helps them to form better work relationships, better romantic relationships later on, because they have the ability to take somebody else's point of view. So that's just one of the many things that socio-dramatic play can do. But it also gives them the opportunity to try out all kinds of social skills in a format in which they can't totally fail. If you think about, if the first time that somebody ever reaches out and shakes hands and says, "Hi, I'm so-and-so," is when in the context of a business relationship when they're 19, it's not going to be as effective as the kid who's played this and said, "I'm a businessman," and shook hands with people when they were 4, right? They've worked through some of that social interaction with their peers when they were younger. Now, I know I said to you, you can do this with children, you can do this with older people, and you might be thinking, well, wait a second, are we going to dress up our, 27-year-old son in a fireman costume and do it that way? No. But there are many, many, many different ways in which we can get at this, this, right? I really encourage everybody who has teens and adults who are on the autism spectrum, get them in an acting class. This is another more socially acceptable way for older individuals to try on different characters. It might be just an improv thing where they get to pretend that they're someone else for the moment, or they might get to be in a play, and they might start with just a small character that walks across the stage and work their way up to having more lines in a play. It's really, really effective. It's one of the things that Temple Grandin says helped her so much as a young person, that her mother did theater and took her constantly. She took part in first backstage stuff, then she was in plays, and she says that it really helped her to think about things from other people's perspectives.